They didn't lose you when you went silent. They lost the chase they had been feeding on all along, and the second you stopped running, something inside them began to crack open. Something broke. The moment you pulled back your energy, they felt it hit harder than they ever expected. That is exactly why this message found you right now. You were not brought here by coincidence. Something has already moved, and that movement has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you. Your energy reads differently now. Quieter, steadier, less hungry in the way it once was. And they feel that absence pressing against them every single day. What lives inside them is not routine attachment, not comfort dressed up as feeling, it is love. The kind that ignores logic, timing, geography, or ego. They were convinced they could walk away from it. They believed distance would kill it and silence would bury it. But neither did. What existed between you was never a projection or a dream. It was real then, and it is real right now. This connection was never born from loneliness or wishful thinking. It carried weight from the very first moment. And somewhere inside you always understood that, but now something in you has gone completely still. The part of you that kept reaching, hoping, extending, and trying to hold everything together has finally pulled back. The instant that happened, they noticed. They felt it like a door quietly closing, like warmth draining from a room they had never once appreciated. Press your hand against your chest and feel that heat. That identical warmth rises in them whenever something returns you to their mind, and that happens far more often than they would ever confess. You were never too intense for them. You were simply the most honest thing they had ever been forced to face. And they did not know how to meet that without flinching. The universe witnessed every single piece of what unfolded between you. It watched every moment you reached with sincerity, and every time they answered with walls. It saw the grace you carried when bitterness would have been easier. It saw the quiet weight you held at night when the connection defied logic but still refused to let go. None of it went unnoticed. You were seen completely, even in the moments where you felt music invisible inside it. And now something is happening on the other side of your silence. There is motion within them. They have not spoken it aloud, maybe not even to themselves yet. They may not have words for it, but it is moving. Later you will understand why their strange behavior matters and what their actions have actually been confessing all along. What you assumed was only withdrawal may be something far more revealing. Type, "I stopped chasing" in the comments, not for them but for yourself. Those words matter because they mark a return to your own foundation. Welcome to Inner Shadow. If this message has found you for the first time, subscribe and enable notifications so you never miss what belongs to you. What they feel is not confusion. It is not mixed signals in the shallow way most people assume. Real love does not keep someone staring at a ceiling at night. Habit does not make someone freeze with their phone suspended in their hands. Love does that. Love creates restlessness. Love makes people push against the very thing they are terrified of losing. When emotion runs this deep, it does not simply disappear. It goes underground. It hides behind pride, quiet, hesitation, and delay, yet still forces itself to the surface. They began to sense you were no longer where they had left you energetically. Even when you responded, your energy no longer carried that same ache, that same waiting, that same invisible pull in their direction. You were present, but there was stillness in you now. You were warm, but no longer stretching for reassurance. That shift landed on them immediately. Their body understood it before their mind could process it. And rather than stepping forward honestly and speaking what was true, they did what frightened people always do when they sense they are losing ground. They started testing the connection. They tried to measure whether your energy still belonged to them the way it once did. The universe has witnessed all of this. It sees the nights they cannot settle, the feelings they suppress, and the gap between who they show the world and the truth they carry alone. During the day they manage. They stay occupied, rationalize everything, and convince themselves they are completely fine. Their mind tells a story that says they moved forward, and that none of this has any power. But sleep strips that control away. In dreams you appear without any effort at all. Sometimes you are seated across from them in a place that feels both familiar and impossible. Sometimes you are laughing and that sound fills the entire space around them in a way they cannot shake loose. Sometimes you simply look at them with complete calm, with no anger, no desperation, no pain, and that calm unsettles them more than any confrontation ever could. In those dreams you are whole. You are not chasing, not waiting, not asking anything. You are simply complete within yourself. And that quiet wholeness reaches them in ways their defenses cannot intercept. When they wake, there is a brief window where the separation disappears entirely. For a few seconds, all they register is your closeness. Then reality floods back in. The silence crashes back, and with it comes this heaviness in their chest they cannot name or explain. Their body knows before their thoughts catch up. Their throat tightens when something unexpectedly carries your memory. Their stomach drops when your silence extends longer than usual. A warmth moves through their chest when a song surfaces that connects to something you once shared. Their breathing shifts, their hands pause, their entire body responds even while their expression tries to stay blank. If someone speaks your name, something in them fires instantly before any defense can rise. The body never lies, and theirs has been telling the truth about you long before they were willing to hear it. They look for you more than they acknowledge. They check your profile. They track your posts, your timing, your expression, the fact that your life keeps moving forward. They see you living, growing, existing beyond the version of yourself that once orbited around them, and it shakes them. They set their phone down, then lift it again. They check whether you watched their story. They post things they know might pull your attention. Then they wait and look again. When they see you noticed but did not respond, it communicates more to them than any reaction could. Your stillness becomes louder than any words. It forces them to confront something they had been avoiding, which is the real possibility that you are no longer emotionally standing where they left you. More than once they have typed your name and just stared at it. They have started music messages and deleted them before sending. They have opened the app, closed it, opened it again, and searched for something casual enough to feel protected, something light, something that could be dismissed, if the response was not what they needed. They want contact, but they also want a safety net from what that contact might expose. So the message they send is often small, indirect, almost weightless on the surface. But for them it carries everything. They are not simply waiting for a reply. They are searching for evidence. They need to know whether the door is still open, whether your energy still leans toward them, whether they still have access to the version of you that once moved toward them without hesitation. And when they no longer feel that same access, something inside them begins to fracture. They were waiting for that familiar warmth to return through the silence. For the version of you that once moved toward them effortlessly. Type they noticed in the comments because they did. The second your energy changed, they registered it. And the universe knows exactly what that realization has cost them. What they carry is love, not meaningless fixation, not attachment to some fiction they invented in isolation. They fell in love with something genuinely rare in you, something real, something they recognized in a way no one else had ever quite reached, and they cannot reverse that. They have tried repeatedly. They attempt it each morning, and each morning they discover it waiting exactly where they left it. Press your wrist and feel your pulse moving steadily beneath your fingers. That rhythm held you through every silent stretch, every doubt, every unanswered moment. What they feel has held on too. This bond did not dissolve because words between you went quiet. It was anchored by something deeper than logic, something older than human timing, and it has not moved. The universe does not set something meaningful into motion only to abandon it later. It sees them in the dark when sleep refuses. It sees every thought they cannot release. It sees the weight they carry privately, the truth they conceal from others, and sometimes even from themselves. And that is precisely why this message found you. You are finally prepared to understand what their testing truly reveals. If they could speak to you without fear, without ego, without all the armor they built around the very feeling they cannot stop carrying, this is what they would confess. I noticed the exact instant you changed. I was completely unprepared for it. I had grown used to your warmth, your presence, your constancy. They would tell you they never realized how deeply they relied on your steady energy until it shifted. They had grown accustomed to knowing that if they reached, you would somehow still be there. And when that changed, something they had worked very hard to silence suddenly became impossible to ignore. They would admit they never truly knew how to speak honestly when honesty mattered most, so instead they did what frightened people do. They tested you. They searched for proof that you still cared because they could not ask for it directly. They knew it was unfair. Part of them still knows that now. But fear drove them toward small signals instead of vulnerable truth. They hoped your response would confirm what they were too afraid to ask plainly. They hoped that warmth was still present underneath your quiet. What they wanted was not simply a reply. What they wanted was proof that they had not already lost you. They think about you every day, more than they intend to, and more than they would ever comfortably confess. This was never their plan. They did not expect to still be here, carrying you in their mind with this much force. They tried to release it. They filled their days with distractions and their nights with noise, anything that might drown out what they were feeling. But none of it worked. You remained. You always remained. They remember how you used to reach for them. And they remember exactly what that felt like. They remember the way you spoke their name, as though it carried real meaning. They remember how you listened with full attention instead of waiting for your turn to speak. They remember when things between you felt effortless and easy. They remember the last light moment, the last moment before fear, hesitation, and withdrawal turned something beautiful into something heavy and tangled. They remember more than they reveal, more than they have admitted to anyone, including themselves. They remember your face, what you were wearing, what you said, and the words they should have spoken back but never did. They convinced themselves you were simply a passing chapter. They told themselves time would eventually close this. They told themselves you would fade the way everything else eventually does. But that is not what happened at all. They are still standing inside that chapter, still unable to locate its ending. And now your silence has pushed them into a truth they do not know how to carry. They keep trying to reach in sideways ways, guarded ways, protected ways. They leave small openings and hope you will walk through them so they do not have to ask outright. They keep testing, and every time you stay grounded, every time you respond without desperation, something inside them fractures and reknits simultaneously. Part of them aches when you do not chase, but another part recognizes the truth in it, because the version of you that stays centered, self-possessed, and whole is the version they always sensed existed beneath the reaching. That is the real you. And facing that version means facing the very real possibility that it may already be too late. That is the thought they return to again and again. What if you have already decided? What if that warmth is completely gone, and they are why it disappeared? They have no clean way to ask that question, so they hold it alone. All they truly know is that losing you quietly is the outcome they were never equipped for. Somewhere deep inside they feel as though they are surrendering the one person they were supposed to keep. Type "I hear you" music in the comments. Not for them but for yourself, because some part of your heart has understood this truth for a long time already. You were never the problem. You were never the source of the confusion, the burden, or the mistake. You were the answer they did not know how to receive. And now it is time to understand what these tests truly are. They are not meaningless games. They are not cold manipulation designed purely to control you. They are not cruelty exercised for the pleasure of power. Their tests are the closest thing to a confession they can manage to offer. Every test carries the same buried message. I still want you. I still need to know whether you are there. I am too afraid to speak plainly. So I am speaking through the only language my fear can find. They are not truly testing your love. They are testing whether it would be safe enough to reveal their own. That is the deeper truth underneath all of it. That is why the behavior feels so charged, so inconsistent, so loaded with concealed weight. Someone who does not care does not behave this way. Someone who is completely over you does not spend late nights crafting something casual enough to send while secretly needing to know whether you still feel anything. Someone who has truly moved on does not study your silence as if it carries the most important answer in the world. The universe wants you to receive this clearly. Their tests are fear wearing the disguise of distance. Beneath that fear, the love has not shifted. It stayed exactly where they left it. It stayed inside them. What types music and erases messages in the middle of the night is not confusion. It is love that no longer knows how to be courageous. And the universe has seen every single part of it. What is placed between two people with real intention does not disappear simply because one of them became afraid. It waits, it transforms, it finds another language. But it does not dissolve because someone lacked the nerve. Press both hands flat against your face and feel your own warmth. Let your body remind your mind of who you are right now. You are no longer someone who waits endlessly for permission to breathe. You are no longer someone who runs after what keeps retreating. Something in you has transformed, and that transformation is sacred. They feel it. The universe feels it. And you feel it too. Even if you are only beginning to grasp the full depth of that change. You were never imagining this connection. What you felt was real. The bond was real. The love was real. And this story is not as finished as you may have accepted. It is still unfolding, still being written by forces that were already in motion long before either of you could see what was happening. Type "I already knew" in the comments because some part of you did. Your heart moved before your mind could catch up. Something inside you shifted. Perhaps so quietly you cannot name the exact moment it occurred. Maybe it was one particular morning. Maybe it was a late night. Maybe it was the instant that waiting stopped feeling like devotion and started feeling like disappearing. And in that moment, without announcing it, without asking anyone, you stopped. You used to reach for your phone before you were fully awake. You used to let one name decide the entire shape of your day. You replayed conversations endlessly, searching for the hidden meaning, the missed signal, the place where something went wrong. You studied messages as though they were encrypted. You waited for typing indicators as if they contained your peace inside them. You crafted your responses with such deliberate care, trying not to appear too affected, too invested, too open. You music blamed yourself for every silence. You made yourself smaller so they could remain comfortable. You bent your entire energy around their withdrawal. You gave and gave, then apologized for needing anything returned. But then something changed. You stopped checking before you had even opened your eyes. You stopped surrendering your day to their silence before it even started. You stopped replaying every moment to determine what you had done wrong. You stopped constructing explanations for behavior that left you hollowed out and aching. You stopped compressing your feelings into safer language. You stopped pleading in quiet, invisible ways. You stopped reaching for responses from behind a wall. You stopped leaving yourself so wide open that cold air swept through every corner of your life. You stopped reducing yourself so they could feel larger. You became whole again. Not because they returned, not because they finally communicated clearly. You became whole because you chose yourself. You chose your own peace over their ambiguity. You chose your own mornings, your own heart, your own name before theirs. And that single choice rearranged everything. The stillness in you now carries genuine power because it is no longer hollow waiting. It is self-respect. It is emotional truth. It is the kind of quiet that does not need to be understood because it already understands itself. That is exactly why your calm affects them so profoundly. It is magnetic not because it performs but because it is authentic. It tells them they no longer have unlimited access to the version of you that would keep reaching regardless. It tells them something sacred has been restored inside you. And when someone realizes they may have lost access to the person who loved them most openly, something within them has no choice but to finally stir, and they can sense that change even across great distance. That is what shakes them most deeply. You did not vanish. You did not retaliate. You simply stopped waiting. And somehow that has become more powerful than any message, test, or silence they could ever send. This is what many would describe as sacred stillness. It is not coldness, and it is not revenge. It is not some strategy borrowed from someone else. It is what happens when a soul returns to itself so completely that it no longer needs external validation to feel whole. That energy is profoundly magnetic, and they feel it radiating from you now more intensely than ever before. They are encountering reminders everywhere, repeating patterns, strange timing, moments that feel too deliberate to dismiss. Whether they recognize those signs or not, something in them keeps being redirected toward the truth they have been working so hard to avoid. The universe moves in ways people rarely comprehend right away. It does not accelerate to satisfy fear, and it does not pause out of indifference. What was set into motion between you began long before either of you had language for it, and that motion has not stopped. Even in silence, something is still being shaped. Even in distance, something is still being formed. That music is the paradox they cannot escape. The moment you stopped reaching became the moment your value became undeniable to them. The moment you stopped needing from them became the moment they understood what they had. The moment you became whole on your own terms, something fundamental shifted in the energy between you. Sacred stillness is not the ending of love, it is the beginning of love without self-betrayal. And there is nothing more powerful than someone who finally knows what that feels like. Rest your hands against your knees and feel the steadiness underneath your palms. That steadiness is yours. It always was. And it is the very thing they have searched for everywhere else and failed to locate. They have looked in other directions, tested other connections, chased other distractions, and still nothing carries that same grounded quiet you now hold inside yourself. Type "I am the shift" in the comments, because that truth belongs to you completely. This is not about anticipating what they will do next. It is not about waiting for some perfect moment or dramatic return. It is about who you have already become. The same force that holds galaxies in orbit has been holding you through every silent night of this. The same pull that commands the oceans has been drawing you back toward your own center. You are not being drained by this anymore. You are being returned to yourself. The light inside you never went dark. It did not dim when they withdrew. It did not weaken when the tests arrived. It kept burning, steady and constant, whether they witnessed it or not. You were never waiting for someone else to confirm you were worthy of your own warmth. You have always carried it within you. You have always been the origin of it. And now they are beginning to remember that truth. You are loved not only by this person but by something far greater than one human story. There is a larger force that carried you to this precise moment, to these words, to this understanding. You did not arrive here by accident. Something in your soul was already ready for this truth. That is why it lands the way it does. That is why it feels personal, because it is speaking,